People don't hire you because of who you are. They hire you because of who they are. Getting credit for your pain isn't the point. What's the point? The point is your people, they are stuck. They are in pain. Hello, good morning. Welcome to A Strong Start. I'm so glad that you're here. We are going to talk today about why your coaching business is not yet growing the way you expected. And we're going to talk about my 4-part formula to get you activated, get you growing, get you going, get you where you want to go. And, I'm super excited about this conversation because I've talked to so many people. You did? Okay, well, if you head over to next5clients.com, that'll take you directly to the group, and we've got a post right in the group where you can click and you can come join us right there. So that's where the full replay is going to be. If you're happy on Instagram, stay on Instagram, right? That works. But I see we've got a couple of people joining us live in the chat. So do say hello. Say hello. Good morning. So I want you to ask yourself something, and I want you to be really honest. How long have you been saying that things are going to turn around with your business? Right? How long? The thing is that we tell ourselves things like, once I get this one project done, once the kids are back in school, once the kids leave the house, once you finally have a little more breathing room. And I'm just curious, like, are we done yet? Your life is not going to slow down. Okay, because life is like that. You start going, it gets kind of crazy, and then you resolve a couple of things, but then what happens? Like immediately, right? Is something else happens. And here's what I know from working with coaches for years, with entrepreneurs for years. Waiting never makes it happen. Waiting never makes it happen, right? So the turning point doesn't come from waiting. It comes from understanding what causes the growth in your business and then doing that on purpose. We're going to do that today because here's the thing. Most coaches, most entrepreneurs, you don't lack ideas. You don't lack the effort. You don't lack the desire. Can we all agree on that? Shout a Y in the chat if you're like, yeah, I've got the ideas. I know, Amanda, I know, right? Gosh, the number of times per week I hear, I know. And I hear this from entrepreneurs at every level, whether they've done 6 figures, whether they're working on their first big year. The thing is that they're stuck not because you don't know what you could do. It's because you're not totally sure that that's going to cause the effect that you actually want. That's it. It's cause and effect, right? And I built a formula because after years of doing what every other coach does, I bought every program at the time until I busted myself, until I got the formula. But before I had the formula, I was like basically always shopping for this answer. What is going to give me the business that I want to have? And I hired private coaches. I took courses. I joined memberships. I was in masterminds. I did all of these things. And it just seemed like I looked up one day, kind of picked my head up out of the chaos. And I was like, it just really feels like everyone's searching and no one is finding. That's how I felt. And if you've ever felt that way, just say that's me in the chat, because I thought I was going crazy. In my first year, before I ever turned a profit, I spent $54,000 courses and programs. And then I was profitable. But, and you may have heard that from me before. What you maybe haven't heard from me before is even after I made my first 6 figures. So when I hit 6 figures in my business, it happened fast. right? Because I had a very premium program. I didn't have to sell very many of them. I hit like over six figures really, really quickly. And I was like, I'm outie on the corporate job. And I was like, I guess this means I'm a real coach, like Pinocchio. And here's what you maybe have never heard from me before. I kept hunting. I kept spending. I kept searching. Because even when I had figured out what causes the effect of a successful coaching business, you know what I didn't quite yet believe? I didn't quite yet believe that it was anything but luck, anything but a fluke. It all felt really delicate, like it was all going to just come crashing down. So I continued to invest in coaches, in courses, in masterminds. And I'm so glad that I did. And I took it to this whole nother level. Over the last several years, I've spent in excess of $300,000. Now, I got a return of over $2 million. So I'll let you do the math. Is that good math? Did that give me an ROI? Shout it out in the chat if I got an ROI. But I'm here to tell you that most of what I needed to know, I got in that first 50K. Most of what I needed to know, I got in that first 50K. The rest of the 200K, that was adding on complexity. It was adding on alternatives. It was experimenting. It was trying a lot of stuff. But I really had everything I needed for the most part with about the first 50K. And I share that with you because I see a lot of coaches, I've helped coaches who've spent six figures or more, and they had a dozen, that's 1-2 leads. After spending $100,000, they had a dozen leads. They weren't getting a profit in their business. And after working together, after learning this formula, this 4-part formula, she turned around and she was profitable for the first time in her business. And, in the coaching space, in the social media space, it's all about being famous. It's all about having the followers, the leads, knowing the hacks, knowing the secrets, knowing like all these things. And I'm curious, like, do you want all that? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to chuck what you were planning on and become an AI vibe coder? That's the big one right now, is the vibe coding, right? Do you think, like, when you stare down the barrel of AI, are you going like, wow, I want to become a machine? Or do you want to be a coach? Just honest question. Like, do you want to be a coach? And when you're building a coaching business, you can do it with AI. You can build in AI, right? And that's cool. But AI is a tool. It's not what actually creates value in the marketplace. And people are selling you that it does. People are selling you like, finally, all your problems can be solved. Here's the thing that I've learned. And I should have learned it, 50K in, took me 300. Easily done, easily not done. Easily done, easily not done. So if you see droves of people making very little effort and maybe even making a little bit of money, here's what I'll tell you. It won't last very long. It won't last very long. And there's a reason. I'm going to share it with you right now. Little thing called supply and demand. So if there's a huge supply of, say, vibe coders or people who have an AI tool that's like, everybody gets it, right? Everybody rushes to it. What happens is the demand doesn't disappear, but it does saturate. It's like the hunger is satisfied, right? Everybody has the tool. And I'm here to tell you, like, if there's a software that anyone can get for $20 and anyone can learn in one weekend, let me ask you, do you see a long-term value play there? Cause and effect, right? Supply and demand. And I'm actually really kind of excited about this season of, disruption in the coaching space and the coaching industry, because I pay very close attention to cause and effect. And I'm like, you know what? People who are not serious about being a great coach, they are so distracted right now. They're getting stuck in the sticky techie stuff, right? The people who really want to do this, they are going to have to rise up. They are going to have to decide, like, what is different? What causes a great coaching brand to endure and to use AI as a supplemental tool, but to build an authentic personal brand? What will cause that effect, right? That's what we're going to walk through today. We're going to go through the 4-part formula for making sure you're building something that is valuable, that you'll be compensated well for, that you're excited to enhance with technology, because the core is not the technology. Is anybody here, by the way, running an AI company? Do we have any AI company founders or CEOs, right? Shout a no in the chat if that's not you. There's going to be different roles that come out of this AI revolution, okay? And there's going to be the people who build the AI, and I don't think that's any of us. There's going to be the people who use the AI to do what they did before with a lot more efficiency and effectiveness. There's going to be the people who supplement the use of this technology. And then there's going to be the people who are providing services that are not yet automated, right? There's your 4 categories. So where are you? Who are you in this adventure on this big spinning blue dot careening through space, right? You're a user of it to do things more effectively. Like, I've got my notes for today's session. You bet your bottom butt that I actually used AI for this. Right? I am Amanda. This is not Amanda. Look, I'm like moving around like a crazy person because I want you to show. This is not an AI cloned version of me to get attention. This is me with you here, now, today. And if you appreciate some of the real things in your life, shout out real in the chat because I do too. Here's the thing. Most coaches right now are really looking to add more tactics. They're trying to make more content and they're struggling with that. They're also just like building systems that don't actually create the result that they're looking for. And I think a lot about this quote, and I can't remember which entrepreneur said it. Maybe you could use AI to look it up. But they basically said, I think it was Elon Musk. There's no greater waste than creating something that shouldn't exist in the first place. Right? And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing so much noise, man. Like so much noise. And it is insanely distracting. And, when you think about what it is that causes the effect of having a really successful business, it's going to be a few things. Number 1, adding effort for the sake of it so that you get some sort of a gold sticker for doing lots of effort is not going to win. And to be honest with you, even pre-AI, that never won. Right? People don't hire you because of who you are. People hire you because of who they are. I'm going to say that again because this struck me as being pretty profound. People don't hire you because of who you are. They hire you because of who they are. And so average coaches that are like saying like, hey, I want to get a gold star for all the effort, all the concern, all the frown wrinkles that I've accumulated on my face since I started this coaching business. Getting credit for your pain isn't the point. What's the point? The point is your people, they are stuck. They are in pain. They keep circling around the same ideas over and over and over again and not making any progress. What's that definition of crazy? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. That's because of who they are, not because of who you are. And what's really interesting is like, you're doing the same thing. I do the same thing. I get stuck in these ruts of like doing the same dang thing over and over again, thinking that this is creating the result. And then I'll get all emotional about it. I'll be like, I gave so much effort. I put so much attention. There's been so much time. And no one cares, right? Now, when I first realized no one cares, I was like, this hurts me deeply. Not only did I work so hard, not only did I care so much, but now no one cares. And now I am sad. And then I realized how liberating it is. how liberating it is to be at the stage or the phase where no one cares. That is ultimate creative freedom. No one cares. So if you've been trying to like work with people who don't give you the time of day, stop it. Go work for somebody else. No one cares. No one cares. If you pivot and you change your specialty, you can do that right now, because if you've been trying and working and crying and trying to do all the things and they don't work, do something that does work. And the only way you're going to learn what does work is to do the risky thing and change what you've been doing. Create a different effect be the cause. That's what I'm saying. Be the cause, because no one cares, right? And one day you're going to figure out, that's my people. These are people that I vibe with. These are people that I resonate with. These are people who have a problem and I'm able to build rapport with them, and then I'm able to be the cause of a greater effect for them. That's what it's about. It's not about you finally being good enough or finally working hard enough or finally suffering enough. Why is it that people try to suffer their way into success? Have you noticed that? Shout out why in the chat if you've noticed, like, the people around you, they're creating the same causes. They're doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again. And they're getting the same effect. And I think it was Albert Einstein that said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's what I'm talking about, is like, if you're suffering for your success, it's time for a change. So let's unpack this 4-part system. I think the first thing is, when you first begin as a coach, you probably got guidance or training from somebody else who coached. And if that's wrong, tell me in the chat. If you're like, that's right, just tell me I'm right. I know that was true for me. I got exposure to personal growth and development and coaching and training, and then it activated a belief that I could do it too. And so if that is true, just do let me know. The thing is that if you're taught things like mindset, consistency, showing up with good energy, but you stop right there, congratulations, you are solid 80% of coaches, right? Because it was so satisfying to finally put language to my belief system. It was so satisfying to realize there's all these different kinds of limiting beliefs, and there's all these different ways that I could attack my mindset, and there's all these great routines and rituals that I can deploy to help me with my mindset and keep shifting it, right? So the thing is like, starting is what gets you started, but it's not the thing that helps you sustain growth. Okay, so starting is the thing, like, you need a level of belief and a level of a good attitude to be able to walk in the door. You know what I mean? Like, to steward your attention towards a training like this one, you need to have a level of mindset. Can we agree with that on a Monday? Right? So the thing is that it will work to an extent. You know, my very earliest coaching relationships, it was very fluky, quite accidental. And it was largely because I had a very good attitude. I didn't know what the cause and effects of it were. I had no idea. Well, I did know that I needed to leave my house. I did know that I needed to connect with other people. That much made sense to me. But I didn't really understand how the conversation really progresses. And I didn't really understand, what do you do when you meet somebody who's super cool and they don't say yes right away? I didn't know those things. And those things, it turned out, were super important for longevity in the business. But to like get started, it was basically ignorance on fire. You know, big dose of audacity, you know? So I think audacity is really, really, really good. Yeah. So you want to write a book? Okay. So I think the thing, Debbie, to realize is that not many people, even very, very famous authors, make a living off of the books anymore. Right? Some can. I mean, there's a J.K. Rowling out there, but I'm just saying that, like, most people who write books, they're doing it to build their personal brand and to gain attention from their ideal audience and to serve their ideal audience in a low cost kind of a way. And the ones that really make money are the ones that have services and programs behind the book. Right? So I just really want you to know that. I think you should write the book because it'll formalize a lot of your ideas, but cause and effect, right? What's the effect that you're really and truly after? If the effect that you're after is impact and to be able to sustain it with income, then I would encourage you to think of the book as being a tool to elevate the rest of the services and programs that you offer, right? It's a piece, it's not instead of. Cool. So let's talk about this cause and effect thing. Every result in your business and your life has a cause, okay? And when you understand what actions produce the outcomes that you're after, then you can stop guessing at your business and you can actually start engineering it. You can design it. And who here's having fun on a Monday, right? Shout out why in the chat if you're like, this is kind of fun. Yeah, it's a process. I engineered this process. I designed this process. This is a process that fuels my business, right? It's on purpose. It's intentional. And I have systems surrounding this process that help me to be reliable and consistent with being here. So for example, in my family, so I broadcast from home. In my family, I have children. Children like to eat breakfast. It's a pretty well-known fact. I'm not deciding what to give them for breakfast in the morning. I know exactly what I'm going to do. We have all the ingredients. We have the set menu. We do the thing. I know what time exactly I need to start so that I can finish, so I can be here. Is this tracking and making sense, you guys? Shout out why in the chat. You can't control everything, right? So like, let's just say I'm making breakfast and the milk went bad, right? Sometimes that'll happen. The milk will go bad. Doesn't happen too often in our house. They go through milk like crazy fast. I'm just like hypothetical, right? Hypothetical. Okay, so you've got to have enough flexibility in your system to make an adjustment, but generally the system being there saves me so much time, energy, and effort. With this live stream, it's always 9:00. It's always on Monday. It's always live. I always broadcast it. We do the same stuff with it, but what we do is we enhance it. So we did a big project about the topics that we're covering over the next little while. And we did use AI to help facilitate that process. But like, I get to just come here and do it now. I'm not making a decision. I'm not thinking about it. Why do I prioritize this? Like really, just think about this. What possible effect does showing up every freaking Monday for a strong start have on me, my business, and you? What are the effects? Let's go ahead and shout it out in the chat because I think you're brilliant and I think you can work this out. So, number one, built-in visibility. I cannot tell you how many coaches come to me and they're like, oh, I know. I'm supposed to post to social media. I know. I'm supposed to do it, right? And they treat it like they're in trouble for breaking curfew. You know what I mean? And I'm like, boo, you need a system. That's all. Gives me momentum, gives me something I can invite my prospects to. Absolutely. What about my existing relationships? This is why I love this process. Like this particular system in my business, it's banger, right? Because we've got alumni here. We've got existing clients here. We've got prospective people here. We've got my colleagues showing up on Instagram going, what the heck is she talking about, right? So out of sight, out of mind. This is a system for being in sight. And, you know, working with my team, we further designed the system. So we're going to have some enhancements kind of rolling out over social media. I got to tell you something, you're probably not going to notice, but I will. Do you want to know why? Because here's what I know. The more I post, the more visibility we get. Cause, effect, cause, effect. So when I sat down with my team last week, I was like, what can we do to increase visibility as we improve the content at the same time? The answer, more short form reels, Because I've talked to you before about like how in this particular part of the system, this is not part of the 4, by the way, we will get there. We're almost there. It's realizing that what you do is either putting you towards your goals or taking you away from your goals. By increasing the posting frequency, what am I going to do? If I increase how often I post, what is that going to do, right? Shout it out in the chat if you understand the cause and the effect. Now, what is the effect of having more visibility? More visibility, speaking about the thing that I actually help people with. Consider that, right? Because average coaches, they're like, fine. fine. I will have visibility. Fine, 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 fine. And they'll throw a little fit as they do it. It's so cute and awesome. And if you've worked with me, you know that I'll cheer you on the second you do it. But they build up in their mind that it's like this crazy feat to post online. They finally do it. They come back to me. They're like, that was not a big deal, And I'm like, I know, right? But then they think they're done. Because that molehill turned into a mountain and they think they're done. Here's the real truth, cause and effect. If you are talking about something, but your perfect person doesn't care what you're talking about, is your social posting going to be effective? Yes or no? Right? Is your social posting going to be effective if it's just there, but it's not talking about what they care about? Because remember, when we're selling coaching, cause and effect, it's who they are that counts. It's what are they struggling with? It's what do they aspire to? It's what do they believe is going to help them to get there? And how are you shifting their belief from what it is to what it could be? That, my friends, is the art and science of the content. The content it's a conversation. One of the things that's helped me so much and continues to help me is I use media to be social. You might write that one down. I've had some of the world's best marketers write that one down and quote me. Use media to be social, right? If you're using it to come off as some pretty princess that can't be touched, can't be interacted with, can't be connected with, social media might not be your play. But it does mean that you're going to have a really irresistible, very clear offer, and it has to be a bodacious no-brainer for your person. I personally love using social media to be social because here's the thing, all things being equal, people buy from their friends. All things not being equal, people still buy from their friends. People buy from people that they like. I know that's wildly scientific. Okay, so let's talk about the formula. 4 pillars, 1 system. I'm going to pull up my iPad and see if we can really make some magic happen on a Monday. There's 4 pillars, and when you understand these 4 pillars, you are off to the races. Apparently, I don't know where my plugin is. It's fine. This is alive. Okay, so let's start strong. What are the 4 pieces that cause the effects in your business? Okay, let's unpack it. Let me just see if I got all of this to work. Goodness me. There we go. I guess I could have improved my system by having this up and running before we started, but I'm a big fan of being real. Okay, here we go. And if you're wondering, I use a tool called Ecamm to help me with all these complicated things. Wow, that is an interesting angle. Okay. I think I'm going to just make myself, hello. There we go. A little taller. Oh, it's because it's on the wrong camera. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. We've got each other now. Okay. The four pieces. All right. Can you guys see? Yeah, you can see. All right. So first you're going to have the action. Got to take the action. So even if you're crappy at social media, can we all agree that you're going to have more of an effect if you create the cause of posting, meaning posting anything is better than posting nothing? Can we all agree with that? Can you shout a Y in the chat if you totally agree? Okay, this is the first pillar. You've got to dare greatly to just do it wrong and to show up less than and to just believe in yourself, to know that you will improve, you will get better, but something is always better than nothing. Okay. I call this phase the 0 to 1. It's going from nothing to something. And people really, really, really hate that level because they tell themselves a lot of really negative things. And they say, well, it's because I'm not lucky. It's because I'm not famous. It's because I'm not connected. It's because I'm not wealthy. I'm like, y'all, there are people who had way less than you have to work with who did way more. Right? The action at pillar is really where that audacity shows up to just do the thing. Now, when you're actioning it in a coaching business, It's all about meeting people, talking to people, fitting with people so that you can coach the people, right? I just said your whole system right there. You have a 6-figure business on an MTFC right there. Which one do you need to work on? Do you need to continue to get better at coaching? Then you probably need coaching clients. Where are you getting the coaching clients? When I walk through this with people, I tend to work it kind of in the back, right? I go backwards. So do you have a full coaching practice? No. Okay. How many consults did you have last week? Shout an F in the chat if you're like, 0 or not many. If you didn't have any consults fitting conversations with people, then let's go backwards. How many people did you talk to last week who could be your ideal client? Right? Shout out your letter in the chat. Which one's your bottleneck? So if you weren't talking to anybody new last week, if you didn't have anything on the calendar with somebody new, then my friend, this is your opportunity. But Amanda, there's no one I know that I can talk to. Well, then I guess your objective is you got to meet people. You got to put yourself out there. This is the scariest part, but it's so worth it because when you meet your dream client, you don't know. You don't know, right? Good for you. Good for you, Jenny, right? So scheduling for appointments, that puts you in the talk phase, okay? You're talking to people. Escalating those conversations forward to the consult is the next step. You're on track. Keep going, okay? So the other thing that I see a lot of coaches really need help with is realizing how much is enough. How much is enough? Cause and effect, right? Just because somebody talks to you doesn't mean that they're going to be your client. I know, wild, right? Just because they talk to you doesn't mean they're going to be your client. So, the number of fit conversations you're going to need to have for every coaching client is going to be somewhere between 2 and 10. Most likely, based on my experience, right? Results will vary. But you're going to need 2 to 10 people to get one coaching client. And a lot of people that come to me, they're like, I want to have 5 coaching clients. I want to have 10 coaching clients. Well, then that means you're probably going to need to talk to somewhere between 20 and 100 people. And then that's where people like really clutch their pearls. They're like, oh, Amanda, I only know 100 people. That's a great start. That's a phenomenal start if you've got 100 people. I have over 22,000 people I've met in the last decade. Isn't that wild? I've tracked it. I have a system. So it's a lot. And so the next thing is that I want to talk about the order just real quick. If you are working on making your coaching program better and you have 0 clients, stop it because you're not there yet, right? The order of what you do really matters. So if you're not you can have an idea of your coaching program, that's totally fine, but you don't know until you have the fit conversation whether you're going to get the yes or the no on that program. And what we said earlier is if you build something that doesn't need to exist, then that's the biggest waste in business that there is. And the number one mistake entrepreneurs make is they build something that people don't really want, right? It's a low match. It's a low match. So if you're not having any of these fit conversations to say like, hey, could I work with you? Hey, could I help you with this? Then we first need to address the big elephant in the room is talking to people. Just because you talk to a person doesn't mean they're going to get a consult. So again, you're probably going to have to talk to 2 to 10 people to get a consult. And that's just real. That's if you're really focused. If you're like, Amanda, then that means that I'm going to need to talk to like 1,000 people to get 10 clients? Potentially. Most likely not. Most likely it'll be on the 200 side, not the 1,000 side. But you will have to really be aggressive. Be aggressive. And the thing is that you can break this down to just 10 people a day. Just 10 people a day. If you do 10 people a day times 5 days a week, that's already 50. In 1 month, you'll hit that 200. Did y'all see the math? Right? Did y'all see the math? So if you had 6 people and everybody got really, really confused, that is because the reason they said yes was really, really different. So if you're in the Experts Network, this is something we can deep dive on in a coaching call. in a lot more detail, but just like for free, I'll tell you the reason they all said yes, that's the thing you have to look at. Because if the reason was super different between everybody and you're chasing everybody for a different thing, then that's what made that probably not work as well. So you want to solve the same problem. You want everybody to solve the same problem. And this is also part of the First 5 Club. If you look at the problem of appropriate magnitude, you want to make sure that your program is focused on solving the same problem. Okay? Super, super important. Okay, last piece, momentum. Can we all agree it's pretty hard to start? Right? So with the Action It formula, it's really about gaining the momentum, working on the right thing first, letting go of the other stuff, and just following this MTFC formula. That's it. Now, if I told you nothing else, you would probably have a pretty decent crack at a business. But guess what? You're probably wanting to have a business that is bodacious, that is reliable, that is predictable, that you can like clockwork predict that you're going to get 2 to 3 new clients every single month. And if that's you, stay tuned because we got more. The next part is, I'm going to just get rid of our numbers here for the sake of real estate. The next part is to track it. Who here's heard that when we track something, we change something? Shout a Y in the chat if you've heard that before. Okay, so couple pieces to this guy. Number 1, you need a very clear goal. So many people that I sit down to work with, I say, what are your goals in your business? And they can't tell me. They have no idea. They know that they want to quit their job. Great. How much money do you make in your job? You would be so surprised how many people have no idea how much money they make in their job. They haven't actually worked out like what the clear, tangible goal is. So I like when I'm doing goals, I learned this acronym from Tom Bilyeu and I love it. It's EW. EW, right? Exactly what, by exactly when, by exactly who. Exactly what, by exactly when, by exactly who. Now, does this mean that you're going to be able to predict the future and absolutely hit your goals? No. Especially in the beginning, I was missing 95 to 98% of my goals. And then you might be thinking, well, why the heck would you track it? Here's why. The goal to build a 6-figure business is different than a goal to build a 7-figure business. The strategy to build a 6-figure business as quickly as possible is actually different than building a 7-figure business as quickly as possible. They are 2 different goals. So they would have 2 different strategies. So that's the first reason that you definitely need to have a goal, because it's going to impact the strategy that you select. The second reason that you need to have a goal is then you will know what data that you need to track. So yes, I missed 98% of the goals in the beginning, but guess what happened? I got data. I got information. I got proven and disproven different ideas over and over and over again. And guess what? I could actually, I'm going to put a delta here. I could actually change what I was doing based on what I was learning. So now when I set a goal, I hit my goals probably half the time now, right? Half the time. Would you say that that's an improvement? This is Debbie's point exactly. She says your ratios will get better as your practice builds because you're getting better and you're getting clearer. Absolutely. But what I see a lot of people do, number 1, they don't track at all. They have no idea what data actually moves their business, and they live in what are called lag metrics. They live in the lag. So the lag metrics are like how much money you made, how many clients you've enrolled, the results. And they obsess over the results, but they have no idea what are the input activities that create the results. And by the way, that's not your fault. Coming through so many different programs, and I'm a pretty good student, like I'll go through all the videos, I'll watch all the things. The thing that nobody really emphasized as I was coming up is what the cause and the effect were. They showed me how to track stuff, but they didn't really show me what needles, what dials to change to move the needle. And if you understand that, you can change everything. Now, we're going to keep going with the believe it pillar. When you believe, it does a big thing for you. So, in my first few years when I was spending a lot of money and I wasn't making a lot of progress, I was getting a lot of advice, but I didn't believe most of it. And the reason was I was obsessed about what my outcomes had actually been. I didn't understand what the inputs were that created the outcomes. I just knew my outcomes were coming up short. Has anybody else ever been there? Shout a Y in the chat if you've ever been there. And so when I would encounter new ideas that were honestly good ones, I had a hard time receiving it. I had a hard time hearing it. I didn't really believe that things were going to change because I hadn't seen it yet. I didn't have the proof. And so the belief piece of things, I think, is remarkably important. And what I didn't realize is there's actually a great joke that illustrates this point. So two young fish are swimming along and they encounter an older fish. The older fish goes, "Hey boys, good morning. How's the water?" And the two fish go, "What the heck is water?" Right? That's your belief system. You have a really hard time seeing the water, right? You're a fish in water. So I think the first thing is you have to see what you really believe. Not what you think you believe, but what you really believe. And the way that I like to do this is I like to actually look at the data, right? Look at how do I spend my time? Look at what are the results that I'm getting? Look at where am I making my effort? Where am I actually making attempts? And see it. I also like to work with coaches. I also love to do journaling. There's lots of ways to really see what it is that you seem to believe. And the next thing is a lot of coaches think that it's about getting rid of limiting beliefs. I actually think it's more about reinforcing the positive beliefs. That's what I think it is. Because those negative beliefs, those doubts, they're going to keep resurfacing. You're going to keep thinking like you're not good enough somehow. You're going to keep thinking that you're not accomplished enough, connected enough, wealthy enough, pretty enough. You're going to those doubts, they're not really going anywhere. And I think it's a bit of a fool's errand to try to just uninstall them because that's not really how it works. What I found works way better is to reinforce and affirm the positive beliefs or the choices you're making out loud and often. Okay, so reinforcing the belief. Last piece here is don't believe everything you think. Test it, right? And again, you can test it using the data. You can actually test this belief. Like one of my favorite questions is this always true? Is this always true? Where is an example of an exception to what I'm thinking, right? So just because you've had an experience over and over again doesn't mean that it's universally true. It could be, and I ran into this with a client just last week. She says to me, "Oh, Amanda, you don't understand." It's my favorite. It's my favorite when people tell me I don't understand. I love that. I love that. I'm like, oh, we're about to have a breakthrough. Okay, so she said, "It sucks, the thing that I'm working on. I have the data." She says, "It sucks, I have the data." Who here's ever said those words? It sucks, I have the data. Something like that, right? I have the information that tells me that I am correct. And what I said to her is, well, you may have the data, but you also have a story that you're telling about the data. And wouldn't you know it, we walked through her data step by step. We got clear on what the data really was. And it turned out there were multiple stories available. You know, if you're looking at your bank account, this is one of the most common ones that I see. People look at their bank account and then they assign themselves their self-worth. And I'm seeing it, I think, more often nowadays because we've had so much disruption with technology, so much change in the economy, just like all these things. So people who used to make a lot of money aren't making as much money, especially like if they had white collar kind of work. And because they believe that their status in the world is attached to what their bank account used to say, they think they look at the data of what their bank account is, and then they say, see, I'm a fraud. See, I'm an imposter. See, do you see the data? And I'm like, that's such a partial story. I'm sure there's reasons that your bank account looks the way that it does, and they are not all about you. They're not all about you. And I don't know who needed to hear that today. Someone needed to hear that today. Last piece of this puzzle is you need what I call the drive, right? You need to be able to drive it. This is a little different than actioning it. Actioning it is kind of like making the decision over and over and over again to do what matters, okay? Driving it is like the fuel for the engine in your car. Okay. So to drive it, you're going to have a couple of things. You're going to have your willpower. And most entrepreneurs, most people that I know, they're way over indexed on their willpower. They think they're supposed to be able to just will a 6-figure or 7-figure business into existence. And if they just really want it really, really hard enough, that they're going to be successful at doing it. And these are the same people who tend to get burned out. They tend to get frustrated. They tend to complain about their consistency. They tend to get a bit bogged down because they're overly indexed on willpower. The thing that will set them free, that they are so usually very resistant to, is systems, right? They need systems in place. Because if they had systems, it would take the decision-making out of the activity so that they could create more cause, be the cause, right? Be a menace, because you know exactly what to do. So you can do it in much higher volume than anybody else because you've already pre-decided how you're going to approach the problem. Systems drive your business. If you do not have systems in a business, you, my friend, are on very thin ice if you're making money at all. And if you haven't made money yet, I promise having systems will help you, because even a bad system can be improved upon, right? Remember what we said before? Is it better to just post to social media than not do it? Yes. The answer is a resounding yes. Is it better to network and connect with people than not do it? Yes. Is it better to take the chance and pitch the thing and do it in the wrong timing with the wrong script? Yes. It is always better to take the action than to not take the action, because if you take the action, you can improve on the action. But if you never take the action, there's nothing to improve. Okay? The last part here, that if you're going 6 figures and beyond, if you're going for any multiple of 6 figures, I strongly encourage you to seek team. Hire the bookkeeper, hire the accountant, have a lawyer on retainer, have a virtual assistant, hire somebody to take photos of you and video of you when you do a speech. Like, the team is what really amplifies the dream, because if the team understands the system and can support and amplify your system, then the team can help you to be genuinely successful. And you know why they want to help you, by the way? Is because if you're successful, you will keep paying them. And that's even your bookkeeper. That's like every level of role. Your coach wants you to be successful. Okay? It looks good for them if you are successful. Here's what I see too much of. Too many entrepreneurs are like, I've got to do this all by myself. I've got to be, oh wait, I did this wrong. I'm trying to kind of make fun a little bit, but I had the wrong color. I just need to do this all by myself because I have no money. I have no fans, no fame. And they define themselves by what they don't have. And I'm like, boo, talking to you. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's because that's all you know how to do. Right? Not rocket science, and not even embarrassing. But if you had a little more mentorship support in your corner, what would happen? What could happen? Right? If you had a little more done for you so you're not having to distract yourself with side quests and side projects that don't really matter to your outcomes, what would happen? You know, I recently started helping people with just getting their website online. You know, I help you with your domain. I help you with like just setting up a very basic website. If you're looking to have like the next Dolce & Gabbana website or something that's like super specific and costs tens of thousands of dollars, not your girl. But if you've just been like having this whole, I don't even have a domain that I can like put on the internet where people can schedule with me or join my mailing list. I've been helping people with that as they come into the Experts Network. And you know what's really cool is like we can get it done in less than a few days. And I've been doing it lately as a bonus, right? Just because you stepped into the Experts Network and you took a chance on getting some real mentorship over the next 6 months. And I share that with you because so often we tell ourselves like, oh, I can't because I'm not a programmer. I can't because I don't know the technology. I can't because I'm not, a vibe coder now. That's what everybody has to be, is a vibe coder. Or I'm not this and I'm not that. I'm like, you don't have to be. You don't have to be any of those things. If what you are is the coach, you need to be the cause of coach, right? Don't be the cause of a web developer. Don't be the cause of somebody who sets up the system. Be the cause of someone who uses it to connect authentically with actual people. That's it. That's the 4 pieces. So this week, here's your assignment, should you choose to accept it. Take a look at your calendar and ask yourself, did I take action? Did I take a moment to review the action I took and the result that I got? Just do that. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to build websites. You don't have to build bots. You don't have to do crazy prompting. You don't have to spend days and days in workshops. Just look at your results and ask yourself this powerful question. What would be different if I had the support that I genuinely need? Right? What would happen if I did not build this business? I'm a smart girl, okay? I have a chemical engineering degree. I had a decade of corporate experience, and I still had to invest, in my case, over $50,000. That's not what I charge people, by the way. But I personally had to invest at that level before I started turning profit. Because I didn't know what I didn't know. I was that fish in the water. I didn't understand what beliefs I had about how the world worked, that I needed to reorganize in order to be more effective with my goal of building a coaching business. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you want my help, you can go to my Instagram, the Amanda Kaufman, and you can send me the keyword expert. And I will help you with sending you a little video that talks a little bit about how I help in a deeper way. And if it's right for you, you can apply and you can follow the instructions on the video. Thank you so much for being here. Next week we're going to keep going and we're going to talk about how do you implement these 4 pillars in an order that makes sense for where you probably are in your coaching business. And I'm really excited about it. We're going to be back 9 a.m. I am going to be traveling, so it'll be a remote one, but it's going to be so good. And I can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you again next week.